Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Roleplay in the tabletop game Athenaeum. As you can see, we have a packed house. This is a very special crossover session. For those of you who have never experienced one of these before in any of my other campaigns, traditionally what happens at some point during one of my campaigns is somehow the group from the current campaign ends up in the world of the group from the prior year's campaign. Because technically, all of these campaigns are sort of together in one expanded YouTube Angel Arts universe, which has actually been explained how that happened throughout the campaign. So, I'm super excited that the Dragon Age Season 3, Dragon Age Ascension characters are here and joining us today. So, woo! Thank you all for joining us, all 5 of you, which means that we have 11 PCs ready to roleplay and rumble. So, before we do that, let's take some time to at least get to know who each of the players and their characters are. So, I would like for each Dragon Age character to tell us who they are or how they'd like to be referred to online, at least, for the purposes of today, where they're from, and tell us a very high-level, brief explanation of your character.
Hello, I am Sam. I am playing Leon, who has had some parental issues, but maybe has gone past them, and is definitely not a blood mage. Ha ha. Yeah, Leon is a fun kid, and they, I don't know how much you want to go back into the back of it, but I guess we are gods in our universe, and my domain is blood, secrets, and research. So
yeah, trying not to give too many spoilers, but it's sort of unavoidable at this time. Spoilers: all of the PC characters ascended into godhood, and they are technically gods. And by gods, they are...
Technically?
Well, some people like to refer to you as saints. Mostly Cedric likes to refer to you as saints. Other people think you are demons in disguise, trying to pull the wool on everybody. But to describe, I think the best way I can describe what I mean by gods is just think Greek or Roman mythology, where the gods have, like, they're not all powerful. They have specific domains. They are able to control those domains to a certain degree, but you know, they do have mortal forms and they can walk amongst the people, etc., etc. So they're super powerful, but they're not like all-encompassing powerful, if that makes sense. Just to give a little bit of comparison, the Dragon Age Season 2 players or characters are not gods. They still dominate when it comes to like controlling the elements. These gods can't do that, but they can control other things, just for like balance.
Hello there, I'm Skull. I'll be reprising my role as Tyrion Seedoff, an escaped elven slave rogue doctor. That was once upon a time ago, but after ascending he became Tyrion the Free, god of freedom, perseverance, and healers. And yeah, currently he has a couple of jobs he's doing, and he's overworking himself.
Hello, my name is Callista. I am playing Pasha, who was a Tamazran of the Qun. She left the Qun to go find a missing child and accidentally became a god. Hey! Her domains are protection, lovers, and managers, which suited her very well. And yeah, she's just living her best life, managing managers and stuff. Yeah, that's Pasha.
Hey everyone, I'm Tommy, also known as Erzband to a select few, but Tommy's absolutely fine. I played Russo Vegal Ren, who became Russo the Resolute at the end of the campaign. Overall, I was the single dad lawyer of the group and was very much the adulting, responsible person that may or may not have almost been stoned to death once or twice in the campaign. But hey, I'm here, had a good time with everyone, and I managed the domains of destruction, law, diplomacy, and fashion.
Also known as the Laurier.
Hello, I am Dominic Stengel, reprising my role as Darthan the Redeemed, a former awakened darkspawn. For the purpose of this, think of them as zombies but not undead, who is a god of disease, redemption, and empathy.
I also should point out that Dominic, I was always very impressed by, wore makeup on virtually every single campaign, at minimum the eyes, at minimum, which, considering he was not even in Eastern time, did all of that earlier than at least I did, which is very, amazing. So the fact we were trying to guess whether or not Dom actually put on makeup today, and let me just say I appreciate the dedication, even if I don't say it enough.
I have a reputation to uphold, man.
He does. Let us move on to the warm-up question. I would like for each person to explain to us which characters from the other team they would really think would have a very interesting conversation with, role-playing scene with, and why.
So for me, it was challenging to narrow it down to one. So good job giving us a good challenge right off the bat. But I would have to say, probably for me, it's Darthan, just because of the domain of empathy, I think is able to bring a lot of RP opportunity out of Sam, the character. So more so than a lot of the other characters. So that would be my primary first thought.
I'll jump on the Darthan bandwagon, and I think for Tori it's a little bit more obvious reasons. I mean, he's a darkspawn. He kind of looks like a zombie. That's totally up Tori's alley. So I just probably at first glance you would really, really like to talk to him, where maybe other PCs wouldn't necessarily.
I would have liked to say Darthan, but I'm going to say Pasha, because she has the domain of lovers. And I'm sure that the last thing Hark expected whenever I auditioned was that there would be a relatively serious romance involving Lonic and an NPC. And with him becoming more serious, like all of the characters, at the beginning of the campaign, I probably would have said Tyrion. At this point, I'm going to say Pasha.
So originally I was going to say Darthan because they have a lot in common with the whole redemption thing. But I'm actually going to say Pasha because of protection and lovers. So I think that would actually be a very interesting conversation to have between Black Powder and Pasha.
So, for obvious reasons too, I think Frankie would gravitate either. See, this is my initial would be either Darthan or Pasha, which seems to be the popular ones. For obvious reasons. Frankie's a protector. Frankie's come from the dead. It's these obvious things. But I think to have an interesting conversation, probably be Tyrion. The idea of freedom, breaking free from, because he's kind of been programmed. So I think Frankie's he needs to break free from these preconceived ideas of what he's supposed to do and supposed to be, and figure things out for himself. And I think the freedom, perseverance part really calls. I mean, as a player, I would want to kind of dive into that kind of stuff, but we shall see.
The obvious answer for Star is Russo, because he's the god of fashion. Hello. Was anyone listening to the conversation? That was one word and one word alone. Star was like, you know what, honey, I got this swung, and I need your lawyering skills to hook a boy up. That's all I gotta say. There it is right there. The end. Somebody say period. Okay. Good morning.
Firstly, for Micah's benefit, period. Now, the obvious answer for Darthan is everyone, because empathy. I can get a lot out of everyone. However, any one particular character, I would be doing something that I have kind of already done before. I know the script, if you will. But Lonic because there is a certain scene that I can imagine, based on some discussions me and Adam have had, that is an aspect of Daretham I have never gotten to play before, and a very, for me, very fun aspect. So I am definitely excited for everyone, but excited for that in particular because it is going to be something different.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I could go with the obvious answer of Lonic and Adam because they are the best. Like, I have that bias. I'm gonna avoid that bias, and instead I'm going to say Star because, again, based off conversations, Pasha and Star actually have a lot more similarities than I actually thought. So I'm like, oh! Like, they're like two little peas in a pod, kind of. So, like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
I was thinking either Tori or Frankie, mostly from the aspect of, being undead. And historically in Dragon Age, undead have been either taboo or greatly limited in these aspects. One being a spirit, and spirits have their own connotations, and then someone being an amalgamation of other corpses is very new and fascinating. So
honestly, I do want to avoid the default answer of everyone because I have been looking forward to this event for a year, and it is nice to see everyone again. But if you're really gonna stick me in a corner and be like, pick one, I'm gonna have to default to two and say the two that I'm the most excited to RP with would be Sam as a character, simply because me as a player, I vibe with a lot of that stuff. Plus, I feel like role-wise from the two sessions that I've seen, Russo and Sam are very similar in how they acted. Then the other one, surprisingly, I ended up sticking with what I said in our Ascension epilogue vlog, that I feel like Russo and Frankie have a lot in common because of how they came into being and how they're amalgamations of different things and how that's affected them. So I'd be really interested to roleplay that with Alex.
Yeah, I would have loved to go with default upon to meet everyone because same sort of answer. I won't repeat it. However, though, if I will have to default, I do. There were like a couple of characters that I really would love to roleplay with. I will get my chance to but I would love to roleplay a lot with Star actually, because I think in the conversations we had, I think there was a lot of similarities I did not expect. But there was quite a few similarities from the perspective of like what Tyrion does and also potentially what Star does. So I think we'll get a little bit of roleplay from that. So, yeah.
Well, Tyrion might be in luck because Star is the romance master. So maybe Tyrion might be able to teach Star a few things about romance.
Humble comes over to Star and is just like, "Hey man, can you like help me get this? I've been trying for a while."
If you have any problems, I can cure those.
Yes, of course. Oh, and by the way, if people are wondering, I dressed up a little bit today just to commemorate. I probably need to explain my costume because it's not super obvious. I'm actually, this is my attempt last minute, as in 5 minutes before the campaign started, to look like Prince Nathan. And the lay is because of the Chi Isles, because that actually, it was where you all are right now, are in the Chi Isles. Which is an Asian-inspired world in Thetis that we sort of created for the purposes of the third season. When we last left off the Athenaeum cast, they ended up in a very strange and wondrous land, but we will get to them shortly. As for the Dragon Age characters, I would like for the Dragon Age cast to roll initiative, please. Tyrion, we will find you in your private quarters in Tevinter.
Okay. So
for those people who are not familiar with this world who are watching, Tevinter is kind of known as the... In traditional Dragon Age storytelling, they're not typically like the good guys, or they basically are kind of the bad seed of Thetis at times, depending on who's telling the story.
They're like one of the last empires, or like former empires, quotation marks, remnants.
For one, slavery had been like of practice that they practice freely in Taventer. Not anymore, because slavery has just been abolished, and but it's very, very early, and so things are a little. The elves who have been freed are still not 100% safe. They have separate but equal laws, which isn't perfect. It's a good step in the right direction, but it's definitely still a lot of work to do. And not everyone is happy with this new change in the land. So Tyrion is there to act as a bodyguard to the person who is mainly responsible for this, Calpurnia, who is the Archon, which is basically the high leader of Taventer. Calpurnia was an ex-slave, and long story short, she sort of somehow clawed her way up to the top to get to where she is now. So Tyrion, can you describe for us what are your quarters like in Taventer?
So at least in Taventer, it's a fairly like sizable, like medium-sized room that contains everything that Tyrion needs. So it's got like a bookshelves with like medical texts and like a couple of historical tomes of Taventer. There is like a massage bed used for when he does his acupuncture skills, or for people who need it. His own sleeping bed where he sort of sleeps his quarters. A decently sized table with a Taventer map on it, with like where all his work has been sort of going on, so like pins or like, you know, some scrolls where he needs to like read some text going on, because he's not just a bodyguard, he also tries to help with the peacemaking of the whole deals and all that. He's also got a small arsenal, some weapons of his like personal stuff, but it's nothing like much, and a couple of clothing like set around, like probably covered with clothes. Yeah. Very simple stuff. There's a window that sort of oversees. Where is his room again? Just out of curiosity.
Where do you want it to be?
Ooh. I imagine probably where the Archon resides. To be like closest.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So he's probably like overlooking a little bit of what was the place called? Minrathos? Like a little bit of like the Minrathos like backdrop window. Yeah. So that's the room.
Tyrion is in a very interesting situation because even though he's a god, he is doing community service for Taventer because he sort of murdered somebody.
Yes.
He wasn't going to murder him.
No.
He wasn't going to, but the dice made him do it. He literally rolled dice to determine whether I should kill this person, and he did not do so well.
It's a test of will.
Test of will.
Didn't work out.
Yes. So, and this is actually a really very fascinating subject for the people of Thedas, because he is recognized as a god or a saint or whatever, but he allowed himself to be put through this community service program in servitude of the people of Taventer, which some people are scratching their heads and many others are actually lauding Tyrion the Free, even though right now he's not exactly free, as ironic as that is. But anyway, Tyrion, we're gonna say it's like relatively early in the morning. You've gone through your morning business. Maybe you're like about to have breakfast or whatnot, when there is a light tap on your door.
Door's open. Come in.
You open the door. It is a gentleman in leather armor, relatively young, handsome face, and by the sight of the two firearms holstered on his sides, you recognize this as Prince Nathan, son of Reclusiarch's character Maximilian Sunworth. You did not expect Nathan to pay you a visit, but as soon as you open the door, he sort of smiles at you and says, "Hello, old friend. Long time no see."
Oh, by us, because he can't say gods. He sort of like shakes. He gives him like a hug, like a tribal norm, like give him a hug.
He will definitely return the hug back very firmly, and he will say, "Tyrion, look at you! I didn't expect somebody who was in the middle of of doing community service for Tevinter to be in such high-end quarters?
I guess you could say that. It's only one room. All my needs. I guess Calpurnia was very generous.
Well, considering all the buzz that's been going on in the city, not just because of what you did, but because of what she did.
Yeah.
I feel like you both sort of are sharing in the same boat in terms of being in the limelight.
Seems so. What brings you to here?
He says, I'm just passing through. I was trying to see if I could gather some materials, some arcane ingredients for Circe, and I asked permission from Calpurnia to come see you.
Oh, alright. He sort of chuckles, still looking for some way to improve your guns.
He sort of chuckles. All in the name of science, as Circe would say.
Whatever you say. Come in. He sort of lets him into the room and he closes the door.
He looks around and says, wow, this is actually nicer than my room at the palace.
It is what it is. It's enough that I need. Sure, it may have a lot of stuff here, but it's, all in my work.
He's gonna look around and, he's gonna respectfully, kind of, put his hand on some of the books just to see what some of the subjects. And he says, have you kept in touch with anyone recently? I'm not really sure how much you get to see, I guess, everybody, since, it's already been, a year?
It's been a year. Well, I have been busying myself with my work, so Tevinter and Daedus, I think you know about my healing camps.
Yeah, I need to commend you. Ever since you came to power, there's been a sudden rise of new doctors and healers, and you really have inspired a lot of people, Tyrion, and that's something I always admired about you.
He will sort of nod. Thank you, but I guess all I needed was a voice. I guess I had to be the voice, which I find kind of funny.
Well, you were a voice that desperately was trying to be heard ever since you were a slave. I'm kind of glad that you're using it finally, and using it for the purposes that you have been.
Well, it's always been my goal to be to help as many as I can.
So, you never actually answered my question. Who have you kept in touch with? Who have you spoken to recently?
He tries to sort of rack his brain, and he hears a little bit of the voices in his head from that particular character, and he goes, I've been kinda out of touch, I guess. I've occasionally spoken with Leon and Daretham, since both of our domains occasionally work with. Pasha and Russo, not so much.
Any specific reason why not Pasha and Russo?
Well, Russo is always busying with himself, and Pasha has her own area to expand, and, well, we didn't end on the best terms. Sad as it is, but what can you do?
Do you travel back up? He looks up. Back up there?
Yeah,
much at all?
I have some quarters there where it's where I do all my healing work. Mostly, when I have my time off from my Tevinter job, I always go back there. But mostly I work here because this is where I have to do my service, as it is.
How about some of the others, like Baum, Darren?
The others I have, yes. Baum I have spoken quite a bit, acupuncture work and all that. I think he left off to do some job somewhere down, somewhere south. I'm not sure. Darren I still speak to it, but she's still with Daretham, of course. The others again, same sort of deal. I've been busying myself with my work, so I guess communicating. The only time we'll ever meet up together in face to face when we have our meetings, which are rare.
He'll nod. And he'll say, how long do you think you have before your servitude here is over?
He thinks, and he sort of walks to the window, and he'll sort of rest his elbows by sort of the windowsill. He looks across like the Minrana backdrop, and he says, "I'm honestly not sure, friend. I'm not sure. I might be here for years, decades, centuries. Not until at least the elves get a voice, at least to be free. I mean, sure, they're free now, but it's kind of rough."
As you're saying it's kind of rough, by this point in the conversation, Nathan's still clearly listening to you, but he sort of pulled the curtain of your window to the side a little bit just to look outside. And if you follow his gaze, he's kind of looking outside and he's noticing, like, at a market, there's this elf in the streets who seems to be, like, sort of like begging, kind of, for food, extra coins of whatever. And you just catch a sight of some Tevinter noble, like, shoving him, like, out of the way, and he, like, falls in the ground into the mud. And a few, like, little kids, like, human kids are sort of, like, laughing at this elf, like, sort of down on his luck. But the elf, still, like, brushes him off and, tries to ignore that it happened. Nathan frowns a little bit at this, and he sort of, like, looks into your direction from the scene.
There's a sigh comes out from Tyrion, very audible. Those will still happen.
I mean, they're free, but are they really free?
Yeah.
Have you talked much about this with Calpurnia?
I've spoken with her about to see if we can give them something to do. How I could also put them in some of my healing camps, give them some work. She's still debating on the matter.
I don't envy her position. I mean, growing up around my father, he's had to make some really difficult decisions that were very controversial.
Yeah.
And my father, he doesn't make decisions necessarily because it would make him popular. He makes decisions necessity and because he thinks it's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Calpurnia is definitely walking on thin ice right now, and I understand that she has to be careful what she says and does from this point forward.
Yeah, last year I didn't really help her out. It made it worse. Until I until I got into community service. So her position is precarious. That's why I make sure she's safe. Just yesterday, two assassins decided to try another attempt on her, and the
crows.
Probably. I didn't kill them. They're injured. I think they're somewhere in the infirmary. Usual work. I don't like spilling unnecessary blood, but if it has to be, it has to be.
I'm going to insert a little flashback that kind of shows. Can you give a little flashback of how you heroically helped avoid an assassination attempt at Calpurnia?
Yeah. So it was in. I think she was in like maybe she was like an inspection day, like in like one of the markets maybe. And so probably this is like where like slaves and sort of like the elves used to sort of hang around. Like it's I think like a marketplace, like what's the best way to describe it? Like an underground market, quotation marks, but not really. Like it's allowed, but it's very cheap stuff. She's sort of inspecting it, to see how the progress goes. And he was with her, by her side, keeping an eye out. And right in the crowd, not in the crowd, but like somewhere in the rooftops, he saw someone. Seems to be from a window, actually. They had seems to be a crossbow of sorts pointing at her. And right as the trigger was going to be pulled, he stepped in front, the bolt sort of coming towards him, he caught it right before it could sort of strike her. And the assassin had sort of fled, and he sort of motioned to Calpurnia to run off and like go with her guards. And I chased after him using my sort of abilities. I'm a very fast character. Managed as he was going to use his rooftop, I pulled out my rifle, took a shot on him on his leg, and used my chi power to sort of teleport up in front of him and stop him. And right as I sort of injure him, I see another assassin, his buddy, was also going to try another attempt, and I drew a throwing knife on him, stabbing his hand, deflecting the weapon. And I caught them.
At the end, when the authorities are taking the attempted assassins away, one of them, because you said there were two of them? Did you say there were
two of them?
Okay.
Yeah, two.
One of them told the other, "It's Tyrion the Free. I told you he would show up." He says, "Oh, sir, no hard feelings, nothing personal, but do you think maybe I could get my hand looked at by you before, I'm taken away?"
He'll look at the hand he injured. He sort of looks at him and says, and he sort of tells him, "All right, would you stop doing the actions you did then? Would you not reattempt the assassination?"
He says,
"You just tried to take away someone's free life."
"Like I said, it wasn't anything personal. I just needed some extra cash just to put some food on the table, feed my family. But hey, if I have to serve time, then yes, I won't do it again," he says.
"Promise?"
He sort of looks, shifts a little bit and says, If you bless my hand, I promise. I'm a big fan," he says.
And he'll sort of look at him. He tries to put on a poker face, and he'll pull out from he has a medical bag next to him, pulls out some bandages and some sort of a bit of balming, and he balms the hand, bandages it up. There you go. And then he will leave and follow the where Calpurnia disappeared, and he says, "I am very sorry, Calpurnia, for all to the actions that happened here."
Yeah, Calpurnia will just sigh and say, "I appreciate it, Tyrion. I hope that they weren't too much trouble for you."
None.
We'll go ahead and talk to the assassins and see if we can give them appropriate justice.
He nods.
She leans over towards you also, and she kind of quietly says, "How often does that happen?" She says, pointing at the guy who's like, "I'm a big fan of yours."
Rare. He says, "Very rare, but I try to be generous where I can, I guess." He sort of shrugs at the answer.
We can end the flashback there.
Yeah.
And Nathan will say, "I probably will have to leave tomorrow morning, Tyrion, but before I do, though, I'd love to say that if you ever are back in the Ferelden area, you definitely should stop by at the palace. It would be great to see you."
Whenever I'm doing one of my visits there, sure. Definitely. Gives a smile. Where are you staying?
Over near the Dwarven Embassy.
Alright, understandable. I'll come by maybe. Maybe we can tour around the area, show you what's been going on here.
I mean, if I have to make myself severely ill and sick to get you over there, I'll do it. I'd rather not.
No need.
It really is good to see you, old friend. I've missed you.
Same, Nathan. Same. It's been a long time.
At that point, there'll be another knock at the door, slightly firmer. You actually recognize that knock. It's actually the knock of the Archon.
Door is open, milady?
The door opens. Calpurnia is there. She's wearing a cream-colored outfit, and she says, "Tyrion the Free, I hope that... Oh, Mr. Sunworth, you are still here." She says, "I hope I'm interrupting anything."
None, milady. We were just catching up in old times.
Nathan will respectfully bow. Calpurnia says, "I received a letter from your friend Baum today, Tyrion.
No?
Bomb was mentioning that he is collecting some herbs for medicinal purposes for use for his acupuncture.
Okay.
He requested for you, if possible, to meet him over at the Chi Isles within the next 3 days, if at all possible. I am willing to grant you permission as long as you swiftly do whatever it is you need to do and return back, especially if it means returning back perhaps a few items that can help with more of your acupuncture research here.
I will do the best of my ability then. I'll return with haste. I'll sort of say. And he'll look at Nathan. Looks like we might have to postpone our meeting.
Duty calls. I understand. I hear that the airships that take you over to the Chi Isles have really started to pick up. It's starting to become a relatively popular vacation spot.
Yeah, I heard something like that. Which is good for GIs, I guess, as long as the people there are fine.
It's good financially for them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well.
Though at least for transport I can get there with ease, so that wouldn't be much of a problem.
Well, if you do go, if you can maybe pick up some of those dried dragon fruits and bring them with you when you do come to the palace, I would appreciate that.
I'll make sure I'll bring some.
With that, we'll end the scene there. Good. Cool. Very sweet. All right. Pasha, you are currently at one of your patisseries. I think that's how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Perfectly Pasha. The Perfectly Pasha patisserie. 3 Ps. Just give me a location. Where would you like to be for this scene?
We'll go for our flagship store, which is in Orzammar.
Oh, nice. In Orzammar. Okay. The entire place is just filled with the sweet smells of cakes and pastries of all sorts, cookies, you name it. The dwarves a few of the younger dwarves have recently been hired. Like one of them is sort of in training, trying to attend to customers. And I'm going to say that maybe you're going in just to check in and see how things are going. Business has been booming a bit. I mean, it's not every day that you have a chain of bakeries that are backed by a god or saint. People do say that the rumor is that anyone who partakes in these lovely confections suddenly either A, have a boost in their managerial skills, or B, might have a little bit of luck in love, both of which are very popular. I'm going to say that as you're entering, one of the trainee dwarves is currently being given a hard time. There's a customer who's sort of like raising their voice at them, and you can hear her saying, "I demand to speak to your manager."
The words they call to me.
Yes.
Pasha just like almost floating is just like, I have been summoned. Yes.
You'll walk over there, and the poor dwarf, we'll call her Ingrid. Sure, we'll call her Ingrid. She's saying, ma'am, she says, I'm so sorry, but I was trying to help this customer poorly. She was helping me very poorly, I should say. She turns to you and she says, "You there!" She doesn't even recognize you immediately. She says, "You there! You're the one in charge of this place, this establishment."
Why, yes, madam. Can I be of assistance?
Yes. Well, first of all, perfectly Pasha indeed. I don't think that I would necessarily be as bold to say this establishment is perfect by any means. False advertisement, if you ask me.
Is your problem just with our signage, or do you have anything actually to complain about, my dear?
She says, yes. She said, I had ordered to have cinnamon buns delivered to my establishment at 3 o'clock sharp this afternoon. They were 2 minutes late, and my guests had to wait the solid 2 minutes without having the proper end to their afternoon tea because of it.
Pasha is... I'm guessing Ingrid was maybe the one who was supposed to deliver this, or, like Ingrid was responsible for this in some manner.
Yeah, I think Ingrid's the one who was supposed to make sure that all of the orders were like prepped and ready for the delivery person to make the delivery.
Okay.
Yeah, she looks very like frazzled right now at the moment. So I mean, you don't know what the situation was, but she looks very like, I don't know what to do. I'm not the one who delivered. I don't know what to do. I'm not the one who delivered it. I gave it to the person on time. Yes, and I've already scolded that your delivery boy about being 2 minutes tardy.
Pasha puts her hand on Ingrid's shoulder, and she is going to flood her with just, like, I'm looking for the right words here, like pure managerial authority, just like this flood of like confidence and like, are you going to take this? You've got this, go. And Pasha's just going to say, Ingrid, do you have anything to say about this? And she's just like nodding like I've got you, do it.
Ingrid then says, ma'am, suddenly she has like a sudden like boast of confidence. It says, we here at Perfectly Pasha do empathize with your situation, and we apologize for the inconveniences incurred. Perhaps we can make reparations by offering you a free set of 12 pastries, complimentary of course, for your next event. 12 free pastries? As long as you can guarantee that they arrive promptly as requested, I am willing to look past this unfortunate discretion.
Pasha, at that, very, like, she pats Ingrid on the shoulder and just says, excellent work, Ingrid. I will deal with this. Now that, madam, I feel like we have been more than generous for a mere 2 minutes. And I'm going to put this, as you have taken a turn with my staff that I truly do not appreciate, it is not your place to scold or admonish. It is mine when I see fit. And I do not see that my staff have done anything to deserve as such. In exchange for the complimentary dozen, I would like an apology for the messenger boy and for Ingrid here, who has done nothing except be polite.
As you are speaking to her, I don't think you're doing this purposely, but you're definitely like exuding a sense of authority on this woman. And little by little, like you can see like in her face, like her first of all, her anger starts to dissipate a little bit. And then you can start seeing in her eyes a sudden slight twinge of panic, as if some switch just turned on and she's actually seeing you, like really seeing you and who you are for the very first time. And she sort of says, you're
perfectly Pasha. That's me.
My deepest apologies, she says. I don't know what came over me. I am still dealing with a horrible breakup, and I think that I ended up taking out it on a few people. I was trying to throw this event just to help me feel a bit of normalcy after being jilted. My apologies. No, it was not the fault of any of your employees. I just snapped in a moment of weakness, and I have been a loyal patron to this establishment since it was first erected. You are so right in saying that you've been most generous, and I 100% apologize and appreciate your assistance in this matter. Ma'am, Is that, ma'am, the proper way to address you?
Don't worry, my dear, it is. And Pasha will look at Ingrid like, does this apology satisfy you? Like, are you okay?
She says, apology accepted, madam. She says, we definitely hope that our sweets will help you with going through this very difficult period of your life.
There we go. A satisfactory ending for all, I do believe. Now then, just leave your address with us. We shall get you those complimentary sweets. I do apologize that your experience with Perfectly Pasha wasn't as perfect as we like it to be.
Well, I certainly will tell everyone that I know about the way that you handled this situation. Thank you. And Ingrid will go ahead and, take care of things from there. And just from behind you, you'll hear a clap from behind you.
Pasha will turn.
You will turn. It is an elf with very roguish wear. Sleet is right behind you.
Boy!
Yes.
Hey! Pasha immediately just...
Yeah. Sure.
She's gonna go hug him.
You'll go and hug him, and he will hug you back and say, surprise!
My dear, I had no idea you were going to be here. This is lovely. A pot of tea, some cakes. Absolutely, we must do that.
That's why I'm here. Cakes, tea, any of the above. I heard this is the place to be.
It had better be. The amount of money I've sunk into this place, it had better be. And she will get like a pot of a very nice herbal tea and a couple of the I'm gonna say like strawberry shortcakes. It has like a lot of decadent fruit on top of nice short crust pastry. She'll hand one to him, one for herself, and begin pouring out the tea.
You remember that I particularly enjoy fruit-flavored desserts.
I remember all of my children's favorites, my dear.
Oh, you spoil me, Pasha. Oh, I'm sorry, Pasha, the unyielding.
Oh, please, for you it's always just Pasha.
He sort of looks around and, yeah, there's tons of customers, like, milling about, picking out things, and he says, if you were to tell me a year ago, or a year and a half ago, that you would be running a line of bakeries, I would have laughed hysterically to your face.
I don't doubt that, and I think I would have probably been laughing too. But, here we are.
Here we are. I wanted to just see how things were going, honestly. You've been so busy lately with not only, of course, all of this, but everything that's going on back in Saharon, and I just wanted to sort of see how you've been handling everything.
What a question. As well as I can, under the circumstances. Pasha smiles, but it is a little bit thin. It's not the kind of full-bodied exuberance that she usually gives. It is a little bit thin. She definitely has some like stress lines under her eyes and, all of that. But she's, but I think I'm taking it in stride. I think. I hope.
Well, speaking of your children, how have the rest of how has the rest of them been going? Especially, I guess not Dandelion anymore.
Daniel.
Yes. Have you spoken to him recently?
Frequently. Very frequently. He's enjoying his time with the Grey Wardens. The Griffin repopulating is coming along quite swimmingly. There are lots of new little hatchlings, and I must say baby griffins are rather adorable. They are incredibly adorable. I was thinking about making some chocolate ones for the shop, a new line of little chocolate griffins.
that would definitely sell very well. The sudden surge out of character and popularity of griffins rivals. You know how there's been like a culture of like unicorn flavored like dishes or mermaid like dishes. That's basically what's going on right now. Like the griffin craze is like ever since people discovered that their back has been something that I know a lot of people are taking advantage wise, market wise. So I heard that Athon has been overseeing those efforts of repopulating.
He has. I don't think he's gotten over his fear of flying yet, which is rather unfortunate, but he tries. He tries, bless him.
How have you two been doing? If you don't mind me asking, I do love gossip, especially with gossip of the heart.
Salit, I was your Tamazran. You shouldn't ask me such questions, but I will answer them because I love you. Athon and I, we're going good. Things are going very well, I think. He makes me very happy.
I'm glad. You seem very happy. You seem tired, maybe a little bit overworked under the eyes, but you seem happier than ever before.
I think I'm reaching a point where I think I'm finally ready to say enough is enough.
Really?
At last. Yes. Almost. Not quite, but almost.
Any particular reason now?
That's not a question for you, my dear. That's not an answer for you, and she will boop him on the nose.
Well, he'll take a sip of his tea. How about then the others? You other friends that I guess you adventured with, helped save the world with a year ago?
No, I speak pretty frequently with Leon and Datham. They were good friends during that time. They were very good friends, and I still keep in contact with Master Ignaldo and, the people at the circus. It's nice catching up with them.
That's good to hear, he says. Well, what next then, Basha? What next?
Well, once the business is running smoothly, and the reformed Kuhn can stand on its own 2 feet without a god needing to prop it up, I think I'm due an adventure.
Another one?
Another. I quite
Really?
enjoyed my last. I want more.
I don't know. Maybe if it were me, I would say I would probably quit while I was ahead. I would probably feel too much pressure trying to outdo myself.
Salit, my dear, have I ever been one to quit? In all the time you've known me.
No, you've all never been one to quit. I don't know. I just felt that maybe you've worked so hard to take care of others. I just want to make sure that you have time to take care of yourself from time to time, and I don't know if I'm not sure if adventuring would allow you to do that. Find time to do that.
Maybe it's that kind of adventure.
I'm intrigued. I would ask questions, but I have a feeling you will not necessarily answer them.
I always said you were my smartest son.
You did?
I
Not
did.
to my face.
Well, it would make you far too big-headed, my dear.
Well, that is true. He says, I don't suffer from low self-esteem. Let me put it that way, he says. Well, do you think you'd be gone long then, when you go on this adventure?
I think I'll be gone for a very long time.
Will I hear from you at least?
I don't know. I can't give a solid answer, I'm afraid.
Yeah, actually, that answer actually surprises him a little bit, and he frowns. Oh, I see. Well then. that day, presumably, is not today. So, why don't you and I spend the rest of the afternoon? You can show me some of your specialties, maybe some of the more popular items on this list, and I can sample them so that when you are gone, at least I can look back on this day as one of the best ones in my life.
Oh my dear. Even if I'm gone, I'm not gone. I'm still right here. And she taps his heart.
Oh, believe me, even when you're not physically here, I can hear you in my head constantly.
As it should be.
He will hold up his mug sort to like clink with yours. And he says, "To new adventures then."
To new adventures.
And we'll end the scene there. Lovely. Oh, Daretham. Oh, Daretham. Okay. Daretham, you are in the Golden City. You are there, sitting on your throne. We're gonna say time is not really like a thing in the Gold City, but we'll say it's morning. But you are there, and I'm going to say that the first thing that happens in this scene is that, so you actually have a secretary, maybe you don't call it such, but you actually have a spirit of duty. A spirit of duty who might be called your assistant. Maybe you call her D for short, I have no idea. But she comes in before you and says, "Mr. Redeemed, I have you scheduled for today. So you have a 9 a.m. meeting with Viscount Varys to discuss the sudden outbreak of the Griffin pox near Kirkwall. You have at 11 o'clock a.m. to help resolve the conflict between the Darkspawn and the Dwarven expansionists in the Chanratig. Apparently, one of the Black Queen's children, Reynatus, got into a fight with a Dwarven noble for insinuating his mother was a slattern.
That's a new one.
And at 2 o'clock p.m., you are asked to unveil the new Seekers of Redemption Academy in Halam Shiral. I still need to get confirmation on whether or not you're actually going to attend. Oh, also, Aaron Cobb is on hold in line 6. He's been praying very fervently for the Black King to have enough empathy to let him take a brief vacation to the Chi Isles. And, do you still want me to hold the rest of your prayers for the day, or do you just want me to screen them for you?
Well, the day's gonna be busy enough. And he sits back and closes his eyes as his arms kind of rest on the armrest of the chair, and just says, "Screen them." And or it basically says, "Just send them now." And maybe there's a moment when Duty just like, "Okay," and we'll
all right.
We'll go through, and then there is this sudden burst of just like everyone's surrounding just feels like just little like maybe bits of golden light stream with like little tendrils of black just kind of going around him with bits of blue in there. It looks like really pretty, but in Daretham's head, everyone can just hear just like this cacophony of prayers and screams from the dying of plague. There's maybe one roar from some sort of beast that does have some sentience. It's this utter madness. It sounds like very Cthulhian Lovecraft style whispers and such. And as there's this bit of just it goes in, and then slowly it just starts to get a little bit quieter as Daretham, and maybe there's just a little bit of sweat that goes down the side of his face as he starts to filter and starts to go through basically like millions of calls, if you will,
prayers,
and prayers as in seconds in real time. But everyone like Duty on the outside kind of maybe also part of the duty is to like see when Daretham is wearing thin. So he starts to go, and then Duty can see as he starts to just get a little more immersed as he goes further and further into the calls. And
yeah, after you manage to sort of sort through the prayers and pick and choose whatever it is you want to handle in this very moment, because it is constant. Like, people are constant. I think Daretham definitely is one of the more popular of the gods to pray to because of his domain, because I think there's always a lot of conflict in Thetis, and so empathy is always sought after. And of course, disease is a big thing depending on where you are. So,
and maybe there's this one moment where Duty is about to pull him back, and then Daretham shoots up. His eyes dart open. And he grabs up, I don't think he has Livia's staff, but he has his own staff now.
Yeah.
His eyes flash blue and gold as the floor right near the section just suddenly opens up into a viewport, almost like you're seeing down onto Thetis, and then suddenly zooms in. Let's say around the Free Marches.
Sure.
We'll say Starkhaven, and
Sure.
And zooms in around Starkhaven as goes into this one small section where we see what looks like an alchemist of some sort. Just basically concocting this kind of vial, and there's actually a few people like strung up in, and seems to be muttering to himself and such. And then as Daretham is just looking down, just snaps his fingers, and the concoction suddenly just hits a little bubble that drops up, and just so happens a little bit the kind of rears back, and a little bit goes into his mouth. And then Daretham does another bit.
Nice.
And the viewport closes. It's always so many.
Shortly after you had done that, some like voices echo like around the room, and you just hear distant voices chanting, "He did it! He answered our prayers! Praise be to Daretham!"
And at that point, I just cut it out. Just like, nope. Don't have enough time for that.
The Spirit of Duty, again, doesn't even flinch, because this is just a normal thing on any given day. And the Spirit of Duty says, "Is there anything in particular that you would like me to do for you today, sir?"
Make sure that Lucican is dealing with the remnants of the hordes up in Neanderthals. I think there's still a large group we need to round up. And Razakale, what was her assignment again?
Out of character, what would you have sent Razakale to do?
Razakale was mystery, right?
Mystery. So what would you have?
Let's say. Oh, and how has Razakale come along the research for the cure?
We'll say that the spirit goes through some like light flashes, because I'm sure they have like some sort of filing system that doesn't use actual paper, but some light flashes, and the spirit says they have managed to find a cure that seems to very effective for beings 12 and above. However, the last few experiments for younger darkspawn, especially 5 and below, seems to be not as effective right now.
Make sure the taint is dealt with before they even come into the world.
Are things not as progressing as quickly as you'd like, sir?
No, it'll take time. Make sure that she's careful with all of her experiments. I don't want any of what was happening back in the day.
Understood. Do you have anything for Lucican, sir?
Continue his work. He's been doing good on rounding up the remaining darkspawn in the Neanderthals.
I heard that progress there has been going rather well. From last
seems
reports.
Like it. There's seems to be almost as many awakened as mindless now, making good progress.
Just so that I can make sure I'm aware of your schedule, are you going to be traveling down to the mortal world anytime soon? And if so, how soon?
Most likely. I think I have a break, a couple of days. I think nothing else is pressing, at least for what's going on in the immediate future.
By the way, your girlfriend said that whenever you have a moment, she would like to speak with you.
Of course.
She is over at your quarters at the moment, but I can definitely have her sent here.
No, I'll head over to her.
Of course, sir.
Thank you, Duty.
You know where to find me if you need me. And with that, she will float away.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then Dartham will just kind of make sure that everything's wrapped up, stand up from the throne. There's almost a little bit as the shot as he stands up, his fingers kind of linger on a bit of the armrest. And then as he stands up, he'll grab the staff, and then there's a burst of golden light as he will transport himself not into Darren's room. That probably happened a few times. And then there was a bit of like, no, you gotta warn me. So he transports himself right outside of the door. And then
the door will open. Darren will be there. And I'm going to say that she's dressed in relatively comfortable clothes. Definitely, she's the kind of person who likes to be able to have free movement. I mean, she's a dancer. Mm-hmm. So very comfortable but nice looking clothes. Darren, I would say that she's like, would not take advantage of being the girlfriend of a god, but she try, not excessively, but she definitely likes nice things, and she likes her nice things to be really nice. So she's, she may have an outfit that is like, Louis Vuitton. What's the name of that? Like, almost like the Louis Vuitton of a very well-known fashion person in the business. I don't even know them very well. I know they make a lot of really nice bags, but like a very well named fashionista outfit that she kind of has because she can. She kind of greets you at the door with a smile, and she says, "Are you sure I'm not interrupting anything? You're not busy saving whatever random city at the moment from a plague or something?"
I've already had my quota for the day. I'm fine.
Good, she says. She'll, wrap her arms around your neck and she'll give you a kiss.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, you've been working really hard as of late. It's been a while since you and I have really gone out. And, seeing how it's been a year, I just thought maybe we could take a break. You could take a break.
I know I'm bad at those. And then he just kind of sighs, and you're right. Everything has been going, especially for the past few months, pretty swimmingly.
You have gotten rid of so many fires lately. I just want to make sure that there's some Daretham time, and let's face it, Darren time. Darren could definitely use some Daretham time, let me tell you.
Is that so? As he kind of wraps his arm around her waist, pulls her a little closer. Mm-hmm. You're right, as always. At least when it comes to this.
Is there anything in particular that's been weighing over your head lately?
The amount of people who, to be quite frank, as a god of empathy and a god of redemption, I mean, disease, I expected to hear screams. I expected to hear those of the dying who were begging, and there's only so much I can do without disrupting the natural world, and I've accepted that. But it is tiring when you hear the most vile thoughts of people.
Yes, I can imagine. It's been, being a god has both its perks, but other things that are a little more complicated than that.
There's a few that I've had to reject redemption of, which feels hypocritical, but...
How do you decide which to reject and which to accept?
I try to ask the various spirits who knew them in life if they're still coherent. Try to dive into their mind and see if they truly do feel remorse. And sometimes I even consult demons, and I ask them, would this person turn into you?
Do you trust the demons, to
No.
be truthful?
No, I don't. But it at least gives me an answer, because usually the more the demons are dismissive and the more the demons lie, the more they want that person. Of course, it's no science, and I'm not going to say that I have the right answer, but it is tiring.
She'll place her hand very gently against your cheek, and it's very soft and comforting, and she says, "Tell me, dear, have you ever regretted a decision that you've made in the last year? Like, really regretted a decision?"
I don't know if I can afford to do that.
I think that is a honest answer. Again, I don't envy you. I don't know what goes on in your head.
You don't want to?
All I can do is just to be there for you when you need some support. All I can do is to try to... Let me put it this way. When you're dancing, sometimes you have to learn when to lead and when to follow. The way that I think our relationship has worked is because sometimes I let you take lead of things, maybe even make a few important decisions, because there are things that I cannot even fathom to understand that you deal with. And other times, when I see you going through something, trying to sort through things, and just in general very uptight and stressed out, and at this point she's like rubbing her back and like massaging.
And there's definitely a bit where Darren kind of leans into it.
Yeah. Those times, you should let me lead a bit. And so, what I'm asking right now, Daretham, is let me lead this time. Take a break. Maybe we can go to the Chi Isles again.
And he normally does this mentally, but he'll do it verbally. Fuck it. And he goes over. Duty.
Duty, like, appears. Yes, sir.
Starting tomorrow, no appointments for the next week.
Will do. I'll be screening all of your prayers. For how long do you think you'll be away, sir?
1 week, potentially longer. I'll inform you by 6 days.
1 week. Enjoy your time out of the office, sir.
And he'll give a nod. Where are we going?
She says, "I'm glad you asked that." And with that, she sort of playfully, flirtily, like, kind of tries to draw you towards the room, and sort of like gives a little, "Why don't I show you a little sneak preview?"
And there's just a small smile as he just lets himself be led, and the door closes.
Fade to black. Fade to black. Okay. So my understanding for this scene, Tommy, your Rousseau is just returning from a long, busy saying at, I guess, what you would describe as sort of like the United Nations of Thetis. Is that what you're what you're kind of referring to?
What I want to do was have like a little bit of that scene, then lead into what comes after.
Sure.
Pretty much how I envision it is after the invasion of Ravane and the unbreakable oath on Rousseau to uphold all of his domains was made, is that like every so often, like maybe once or twice a week, he's required to go to this place in like the Anderfels that's agreed to be like a neutral building where like everyone sends their representatives from like Navara, Antiva, Minrathos, so on, etc. And then they talk about like trade agreements, tensions, and other stuff like that, and Rousseau usually ends up in the mediating seat.
So we're going to say that currently there are two major topics that they'd like to discuss today, and one of the topics is going to be about the introduction of the scaled ones. and like trying to figure out the international relations with them. By this point, they're starting to talk about trade. They're starting to talk about, you know, possibly, it's in the early stages, possibly trying to start a new village or a new settlement, rather, a new settlement for members of the Scaled Ones to start populating onto the Thetis map as we know it in real life, away from the She Isles. And so I think a hot topic right now is just trying to figure out where would be an appropriate place for them to settle, because of like, are they going to have their own jurisdiction, presumably? So who's willing to let them come in and settle, I guess, is like the big hot topic. And some people actually, because of the really interesting culture, half of the group really wants them to settle in their area because they're like, oh man, I heard about this dragon fruit that like can heal you and stuff. And others are still like super cautious about this new alien race to them. And then the other topic, I think, is about the Kunari, because yes, things got resolved at the end of the last campaign, and yes, they've sort of split into two groups. There's just concerns right now as to whether or not at least the Orthodox Kunari are going to be true to their ceasefire, to their like willingness of peace and things. And people are still trying to figure out this new sect that branched off, this unorthodox Kunari. They just have a lot of questions and just are trying to figure all that out. So I don't know if either of those topics is something you want to role play through, but it's up to you, Tommy.
I'm fine with either. I feel like the more interesting one would be the Kuhn, because that's more relatable to like actual stuff right at the end of our campaign. I feel like Russo would at least like set up a plan to slowly allow Scaled Ones to like migrate and build up like embassies and other stuff within the other nations to be like, hey, this is new, it's gonna take some time, we'll just slowly move into it.
I'm going to just say then for the Kunari portion, the representative, Callista, you can tell me if this doesn't make sense. The representative would probably be Asa, probably sent by Pasha. I would like to think at this point there's some sort of respect between the two, but you can tell me if that's not the case, in which case I can add a different person, or if you have a recommendation.
I think Azra, assuming that she's on board with the reformist queue, like, assuming she's like, yeah, I can get behind this, like, I'm with this faction now, like, I think Pasha would feel very comfortable sending Azra as a representative.
Story narratively, what would you prefer? Would you prefer Azra lean more towards the Orthodox or the Unorthodox? What would you prefer?
Oh, I
kind of have a rival. Do you want, because she could be a rival.
Oh, I kind of like the idea that maybe they're still rivals, but she is with the Unorthodox now because she got kind of mind controlled at the end to like, you know, because she was kind of like encouraged to like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do war and shit, and then it turned out it was the arseholes. I can't remember their name, but like those guys.
Right.
So I kind of maybe like the idea that she was like, okay, that happened to me under the Orthodox, so now I'm going to go unorthodox for a bit. Got it. Like, we still have our beef, but like we're on the same side, but like yeah.
Okay. Azra is trying to navigate through this, basically, at this meeting. And I'm going to say, Russo, that just in the interest of time, that things get really heated, and they're trying to be diplomatic. They're trying not to like point too many fingers, but even a year later, there's still a lot of salt, especially from the representative from Antiva, because that's where all of this business happened at the climax. They're still a bit salty about things, and so we'll say that there's like some snarky comments from the Antiva representative that Azra did not appreciate. Words got exchanged back and forth. Things are starting to escalate, and the rest of the group is trying to calm things down, but they're not doing very well. So how do you handle the situation?
So, Russo has been very busy over the last year, just upholding all 4 of his domains, at least to like the bare minimum level, because he does do a lot. And I see it as like he's more or less isolated from the group out of like situation, not out of like actual want to. And he just listens to it. He lets them go back and forth for a while, then as it gets heated, you can kind of just, I don't want to say literally steam starting to come off of Russo, but because he's a god and like his emotions are a bit harder to hide now, there's like a noticeable heat wave that starts from like the middle of the room where he's sitting that starts to permeate out. And then I imagine, like, as the yelling gets at its peak, you kind of just see him pull his head up from his desk and his eyes just turn, like, more of, like, a neon gold. Like, envision Clockwork from the Sly Cooper games, like, how his eyes turn. That's how it looks. Then he just, borderline with, like, a commanding echo says, "Enough! You say you want to talk, but you all still act like children." Okay, I get it. The Q has done some bad things. We have the split-off faction to worry about, and everyone's still salty. Antiva, have they not paid the reparations and the repair costs thus far? Yes or no?
The representative says they are about 90% there, Mr. Resolute. Very close.
And so the Qun, have you allowed free pilgrimage in within the borders of the Qun and exchanged your technology as was agreed upon?
Azra says, yes. In fact, Pasha herself has been very diligent about making sure that our end of the bargain has been seen through. And I'd like to say that we have been nothing but accommodating over the last several months. She says, pointing towards the Antivan representative. The Antivan representative will nod and say, "I do not deny that. That is true."
Okay, so I'm going to just lay out a few terms to be a continuing resolution till we meet next Friday. Pretty much, well, next Thursday. It's like about midnight now. I imagine it's been like a whole day thing of like them bickering back and forth. So until we meet next Thursday, I'm going to just lay this as continuing resolutions. 1, we don't assume that the Qun's just going to be terrorists because of what happened in the past. If we're going to move forward, you can't just immediately assume guilt. 2, everyone's agreements have been upheld. As far as I see it, everyone's being accommodated right now best as possible. In regards to the feelings, definitely continue to communicate with one another and see what can be done. Also, the unorthodox Qun that's become the new norm has done nothing but made a good case for itself, so we should give them the chance. As for the traditional Qunists that have been doing things, I motion that they be treated as terrorists if they get violent. Otherwise, I want them left be.
I second that motion. And several others also agree to second them, to third or whatever you call that. I'm not sure. Robert's rules I'm not as savvy with. The moderator, are you the moderator? Or is somebody else the moderator?
I see it as like he's the head decision maker, but there would still be like someone to be like, your turn to speak, your turn to speak.
Right.
In and out the meeting.
Okay. The moderator we'll then say, I guess the floor will then move to, doing what you say. We'll reconvene again next Thursday at 10 a.m. sharp. Thank you very much, Russo the Resolute, for guiding us through this today. We would not have been able to make nearly as much progress in our discussions without your presence.
You're welcome. Now I have to get going.
They'll start to break, and Russo will make his way back home. Which is where nowadays? Where is home nowadays, Russo?
So Russo doesn't really live in the Golden City. This was a thing in the epilogue simply because he felt to better represent his base, he had to live among his base continuously. At least until Violetta does passing, he's forced to live in the Golden City and be with her. So pretty much, I imagine that he has a small home in the Anderfells, about 10 or so miles away from the meeting building. That's just very out in the middle of nowhere because they wanted Balin to be in his element zone, so that way as soon as he's ready to take up his mantle, he's already there.
Makes sense.